Well, hello. Thank you, Steve. I'm so happy to see you guys this evening. My name is Jess Piper. I am from Northwest Missouri. I was a teacher for 16 years, ran for office in 2022, lost. And since then, I have been very politically active, and I'm the current executive director for Blue Missouri. And we are an organization that funds for Missouri Democrats, especially Missouri ballot Democrats. In this last cycle, we distributed $230,000 to 48 down ballot Democratic nominees in the state. 78% of these nominees were in the reddest and most rural districts in the state. In fact, I just did a total before I came on here. We distributed almost $65,000 to candidates in the Boot Hill, one to a woman who was running for office in a district that hasn't had a Democrat run since 2012. And so the work we're doing is very important. It's very difficult. It's hard because we ask people to give to nominees that we're pretty sure won't be able to flip a seat within the first try, maybe not even the second or the third try. But we believe that this is how we create a bench, and this is how we come back from this Missouri GOP supermajority. We know that this is what they did. This is the work that the Republicans have been doing for decades. And Michelle Horner is the person who started this in 2017. And she really talks often about how immoral it is to not have a candidate in every district and how we can't win when we're not contesting every single seat. So that's what I do there. Like I said, $230,000 in the last cycle. We are the only organization in Missouri doing the work of giving money to down ballot Democratic nominees. We also have projects in Ohio, and then we have another that we just started in Tennessee, and we have people working on the ground in Iowa and not Idaho. There's another one, Indiana, where we're thinking of expanding into another couple states. So we're hoping to see progress. It's going to be a long game. We're willing to play it. Our members have been willing to play it as well. And we meet every single month. Tomorrow is another meeting, and we have 3 Missouri activists who are meeting with us to tell us how they keep up with the legislation, how they submit testimony, how they are able to fight back against, some of the nastiest bills in Missouri. And this is what we do.
Okay. Thanks, Jess.
Absolutely. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you have. Me, myself, not coordinated with Blue Missouri. I also travel the state and I talk to local Democratic groups anywhere from, I met 10 people in the basement of a church one time because, people in my part of the world aren't exactly poking their heads out too often. And then I just came back from the chili supper in Columbia where there were almost 400 people there. So I was in Iowa a couple of weeks ago and met with about 30 people in Shenandoah, Iowa. It's population about 1,800 people. So I'm all over the place, and I specifically talk to rural Democrats because it's tough to be a rural Democrat, especially right now. And they need a cheerleader, and I'm willing to do it.
Well, let me lead off with a question
Sure.
I think other people might be interested in. So Ken Martin came through St. Louis last weekend, right?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about, what went on, who you met with, what was your take on things?
Yeah, so Ken Martin is the new DNC chair. He just took over for Jamie Johnson, and I really liked him. He's a guy from Minnesota. He has an agricultural background. He's down to earth. The only thing that I noticed is when I sat down at the table, they were talking about ag issues and they were talking about farm issues. And I listened to it for quite a while, and then I was like, hey, I know that everyone at the table knows this, but we're not saying it. Most of rural people aren't farmers. And I think this has been really problematic with the Democrats for decades, is that the only policy directed towards rural people is ag policy. And I mean, that's got nothing to do with me, right? I mean, we live on 8 acres. I don't have row crop. I don't have, herds of cattle. And so while we need ag policies because farming brings in billions of dollars to Missouri, we also need policies that are directed at the poor people who generally are living in these rural spaces. We need schools and roads and libraries and hospitals, and access to healthcare and to childcare. And what they keep giving us is ag policies.
Well, when
And
you
you're
say
like,
you sat down with a group of people, like who were these people? Where did they come from?
they were farmers. So one of them was Will Westmoreland, who's kind of gone viral because he did a video talking back to that young farmer from Southwest Missouri who talked about, he went viral on TikTok because he said, I had all these contracts and they were canceled and I might lose my farm. Well, his name is Skylar Holden, and he's a Republican. He voted for Trump. And the video struck me wrong because he never blamed Trump. He said, "Oh, I called my congresswoman," and I thought, well, say who hurt you, right, Skylar? Say who hurt you. You got the contract under Biden, and it got canceled under Trump. So say that, but he wouldn't. So they spent a lot of time talking about him. So Will was there, good guy. There was another farmer from southeast Missouri, and then actually there were two black farmers at the table, which was fantastic because you don't see a lot of diversity when you're talking or even thinking about farmers. And so it was all farmers, and then me and another woman who ran for
So I
office.
guess when Ken came in, the idea was he was going to meet with Missouri farmers. Is that okay?
I think so. I think I may have been an afterthought. And I was glad to be there, and I was glad to remind them that we need to, if we want to win back the rural vote, and you all know 1/3 of Missouri is rural, so we can't move forward if we're not pulling some of these folks along with us, right? If we want to engage rural people, we need to talk to them about things that really matter to them, and that's having a job, having health care, and a school that's open 5 days a week.
So what portion of Missouri schools are not open 5 days a week now?
33% are now running a 4-day week. Um, and now they defunded us for so long that for decades we've had to say, okay, we can only go 4 days a week. And now the Republicans are like, we didn't mean this. Now we're going to give you some sort of rewards for going 5 days a week. But one of the rewards isn't the money it takes to pay the teachers to be open 5 days a week. And what happened was, Toni, it actually started in Lathrop, which isn't too far from me. My stepdaughter graduated from there, but it started about 17 years ago in Lathrop, and they went to a 4-day week. And then all the teachers were like, I like this because I can find a side gig so I can generate some more income on Monday when they're out, right? So then all the teachers would apply to work at Lathrop. And so Smithville and some of the Kansas City teachers and would start applying to Lathrop. So these other tiny little schools were like, well, we're going to have to go 4 days a week too because we can't keep our teachers. And then it just started, a snowball effect to where now in Northwest Missouri, if you don't have money from a wind farm, you can't stay open 5 days a week because the state legislatures, it's just not sending enough money. I saw that Don had his hand up.
Yes, and to add to what you're talking about that you're seeing in Missouri, I think it was yesterday there was CNN had a series of interviews with rural voters, a lot of them out in Colorado as an example, who all voted for Trump, would still vote for Trump, but they've all suffered or are suffering miserably from his policies. And to a large extent, it's because, the MAGA movement has, and which is, fueled by a lot of special interest work over generations now, have completely vilified Democrats. And, the word liberal it has, it has been redefined, just like woke, just like progressive, to be work of the devil. And
Yeah.
and I see an alternate reality that they live in. I grew up in rural Illinois, and I communicate with some of my friends who are, adamant MAGA supporters, and privately they'll say, well, we really don't understand all this, and it's kind of a gut reaction. So I think, we really have some organic challenges here, that, I mean, I think as a party, we're going to have to really roll up our sleeves and say we have to be much more strategic about connecting with these voters, and to, your healthcare is, they're desperately in need of healthcare. They need economic opportunity, and that's where things like broadband fiber access come into play. And so they have desperate needs, but there's been um, a washing of the mind. They've been brainwashed, and and what we now have is a dictatorship.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now, I think is the perfect time for Democrats to saturate rural spaces, because we need to be able to point to people and say, because we know what happened yesterday with Medicaid. We know that nearly 40% of the babies born in this state were funded by Medicaid. They were delivered and paid for by Medicaid, 39%. We know that 30% of Missourians are on Medicaid. Well, guess where most of them are? In rural spaces. So these cuts are going to impact people in rural spaces quickly. So we need to be, as Democrats, as a party, to come into these spaces and say, Trump is hurting you. Elon Musk is hurting you, and they're not taking your calls, and they're not listening to you because they know they are hurting you. We don't want this to happen. These are the things that we plan to do. And so I think as a party, we come back in and we tell them who's hurting them and what policies we have to make things better. Hope you're on mute, Don.
I just add one more quick point, and this comes from the Jim Lemke School of Politics. I don't know if you know Jim or not. Okay. But, and it was reflected in just before we started the meeting, the Republican budget chairman from the House talked about, the question was about Medicaid cuts. Okay. And that we have deeply instilled in our culture that we don't focus on the needs of society. We focus on how we can um, uh, uh, make sure people don't get anything they don't deserve. Okay. And if children are dying, well, we just don't have the money. We can't afford to take care of those children, or women, infant mortality. We aren't talking about those numbers. That's a non-issue. And in the legislature, and I've lobbied over in Jeff City, and when I raised this question, they said, well, two things. One, 950,000 people on Medicaid is enough. And two, there are a lot of fallen angels in this world. And if they make bad choices, that's their problem. So,
yeah,
how do we fight through?
Well, it's now up to, I think, 1.3 million Missourians on on Medicaid. And when you're speaking about rural spaces in particular, um, you know, farmers are on Medicaid. Their children are on Medicaid. And so this is something you'll hear people say they ought to pull themselves up by their bootstraps while they're, using Medicaid. So it's a disconnect, thinking it's not really me that is using government resources. It's somebody else. It's somebody who doesn't deserve it, right? When in actuality, it's a big portion of rural communities. So just reminding people that first of all of this, most of this money for expansion is coming from the federal government. I think it's 90 cents for every dollar is coming from the federal government. And it took us how long to accept the money? and how many 19 rural hospitals closed in the meantime while they kept refusing to expand Medicaid. We finally got it through, and now Trump and his goblins up there in the White House are, slashing and burning. So now is the time. It is very hard, as you alluded to, Steve and Dawn. And Toni, it's hard to claw our way back and to talk to Republicans. But it's especially hard when you don't have someone in the community. But the good news is every community I've been in has an organizer. Somebody is there already doing the work on the ground. What I'm asking for, and I'm working with another person who does a rural urban bridge initiative, it's called Ruby, is to bridge our communities. Yeah, Anthony, huh? It's to bridge our communities, and work towards. We put forth efforts to talk to people in urban areas. We give them plans. That's what we have to do in rural spaces. We don't go to an urban area and talk about something that has nothing to do with their community. That's what we have to do here. And it's going to take a while because we have ceded this ground, and everyone on this call knows. Democrats have said, that space is too red and there is no reason to be there. And God love you for running, but there's no reason to run because you're not going to win. Well, we have to stop that. And we have to say, we're going to be there, and we know it's going to take a long time. And we're going to be there in 2 years and 4 years and 6 years. And the Democratic Party, the DNC, needs to understand they have to fund these organizers that are in rural spaces. This is the lowest hanging fruit. This is how we win at the national level. There has been studies by the New Hampshire Institute that said 3%. We need 3% more rural voters to come out and vote for Democrats, and we will win nationwide. So it's low hanging fruit. Not only is it immoral to walk away from people, but it's dumb because we can win. We don't have to flip a seat. We don't have to flip a state. We just need 3% from each district. And so that's what I try to get across to people. And when I was meeting with Ken, that's what I was saying. We need money. Kamala Harris raised $1 billion, $1 billion. Just send a little bit of that down, right? And we could have done so much. Yeah.
So I want to go to a question that Ross put in the chat, Ross Hunt. What is your screening process for candidates? Questionnaire? Who develops your criteria for endorsement?
So we don't endorse, we send cash. And what we do is we don't make decisions because we don't feel like it's our job to decide who wins and who loses as far as money goes. So what we do is we call it the bathtub method, and we start with the people who have the least, which sounds insane, right? That sounds like we flipped everything on its head. But we start with the people who have the least, and we create a funding floor. So last year in 2022, there was not one Democrat running for state house that had less than $7,300. And that's because we raised the funding floor. And so we talked to these people who weren't able to raise much because they were in the boot hill. And we sent them checks for $6,000. And they were able to get 20% of the vote, which may sound like, oh my God, that's nothing. But these people haven't had anyone to vote for over a decade. And 20% voted for them. Like when we think, how are we able to, put abortion on the ballot and win? Well, bringing out a few thousand people in each district is very helpful, right? And then we just keep building on that. So we don't really endorse people. We just send them checks. and we start with the people who have the least. And this is what I'll say, because when it is hard to tell people to fund races that aren't going to win. I understand that. But whenever I talk to people, they do understand that if we just fund flippable races, Missouri would be blue because that's all we've ever done. And look where we are now. We do not have one Democrat elected statewide because we focused on flippable races. So we're trying to turn this on its head and get money to people who wouldn't have a dime.
Susan Turk's got her hand raised.
Yeah. I've only lived here since 1981.
That's a long time, Susan.
Yeah, but I spent my first 30 years in New York and Illinois, and I've been here since 81. So I remember a time in the 80s when Missouri farmers were having difficulty because their crops were being, I guess prices had fallen, and the grain elevators where they were storing their crops were holding on to their crops, pending going up of prices, or because they owed rent on to the elevator owners and they couldn't get their crops out to sell them or whatever. It was quite a bit of a controversy, and one farmer actually ended up in prison because he tried to recover his grain from a grain elevator without the elevator owner's permission. So Jesse Jackson, of all people, came to the aid of Missouri farmers at that time, came here, campaigned with them, led them his credibility and his gravitas, and got them a lot of publicity. And I believe he even led a parade of Missouri farmers and their tractors to Washington, D.C. at one point. And he, of course, was running for president. And he got endorsed by some of these people in Missouri because he was scratching their backs, so they scratched his.
Right.
It would seem to me that we need something like that again, that our farmers are suffering for various reasons, and it would be possible to get some of them to come over to the blue side if we had that kind of leadership.
And
Talking to them and talking for
yeah,
them.
and not every farmer is a Republican. My point with farmers is, if I'm going to be just brutally honest, in a lot of our communities, the farmers are the wealthiest people in our communities. Farms are worth millions of dollars. Ground is worth $25,000 an acre. And so when you have these big generational farmers, by voting for Trump, a lot of them are voting in their own self-interest, right? I mean, they're voting for the guy who's going to give them tax cuts and that sort of thing. So my thing with being, and I'm not a farmer, and not all farmers are wealthy, obviously, but my thing is coming back and speaking to rural issues. Again, not just farm issues, but I mean, if we could get a big, percentage of the farmers on our side, that's fantastic. I was just when I was writing my Substack, I did a little bit of research and I found out that 78.8% of ag dependent counties went for Trump in 2024. So that is a massive majority. If we could just pull a few of those away, we would end up, winning at the national level anyway. But yes, Susan, yeah, to your point, it would be fantastic if we could have somebody bring them over.
I have a question about, are you in coordination with or getting any help from, like, is it the National Women's Political Caucus? Some of the national level groups that have local affiliates that are working to, get women candidates out in the field.
I've spoken for him. We don't work together, but I mean we're on the same page. And the Missouri Women's Political Caucus does give money to candidates. I'm very specific about something. I think endorsements should come with money. And so there are a lot of people working across the country that do endorsements, but there's no money with it. And so a lot of times it really doesn't mean much. You can come in my community and I can say, well, I'm endorsed by, this organization or that. And they're like, I don't know who you're talking about. I have no idea who that is. I could, I got an endorsement from the Sierra Club, which I was really happy about. And people are like, who's that? Right. So to be helpful to candidates, they really do need money to pay for gas. Because you think about a district like mine, it's 4 counties. That's a lot of gas money. Literature is expensive, signs are expensive, ads are expensive. And so I'm really all about getting money to candidates until we can get money out of politics. And then I'm all on board with that. What I'm trying to do is work myself out of a job. I know Toni may feel like this too. I don't want to have to do this. And if I didn't have to raise money for candidates and I could do whatever, that would be fantastic. If we could elect Democrats, I wouldn't have to spend so much time raising money for Democratic down ballot candidates. So I'm trying to get out of a job. Dawn.
So along with money, and several years ago, I took the Train the Trainer class back in 2017, as a matter of fact. And I work with a lot of different candidates and new candidates. And time after time after time, what I see is they just really don't know how to run a campaign. Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough campaign management talent because, to both be a candidate and run your campaign is a very difficult task as well. I think we could do a lot more in terms of providing support to candidates, and every district is going to be a little different on the issues, but give them something to talk about and also give them good training on, how you knock on doors, which is, we've had meetings here recently where people say, well, it doesn't pay off to knock on doors. It's just like, how you connect, how you make these connections needs to be, there needs to be some more training on how to get that done.
Well, isn't there, at the national level, I know that they put together all sorts of literature and whatnot for candidates, to train candidates. And, you would think that would filter down to the state party as well, so that they could, amplify that. But I don't know
And
that
they
any of
do.
that's happened.
They do. They do. The Missouri House Victory Committee, or the Missouri House, every Monday they meet. His name is Alex Johnson, and they provide lots of training materials and all kinds of information for free to Missouri Democrats. So yeah, they actually do that every single week. It's good training.
Okay. Any other questions or
And you
comments?
guys, if you want, you can ask me in the chat and I can answer that way, that I don't take up all the time. We get to hear from Toni because she has got some really, really important stuff for us. And I will definitely answer everything in the chat.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jessica. Please stick around if you can, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Um, okay. Let's turn it to Toni then.
So Steve is going to do the screen share for me
I'm going to try.
to try to prevent technical difficulties. Do you want to make it full screen?
Best you can. Come on.
Um,
Do you want
It's
to make
full-
it full screen?
it's
Good.
full screen on mine.
Okay, yes, sure. So my name is Toni Easter. I am a volunteer with Respect Voters Coalition. My first experience with the Missouri Citizen Initiative was Clean Missouri. I attended a presentation, signed the petition, and held a yard party to share with others. When the legislature tricked the voters into overturning it with ballot candy, that hurt badly. Last year, I collected signatures for reproductive rights while watching with disgust as politicians undermined us again and again. Missouri citizens voted yes, and the legislature is now working to overturn A3. That led me to this. Respect Voters Coalition has a mission to ban power-hungry Missouri politicians from attacking the will of the people, taking away your power. We will use a citizen initiative to protect citizen initiatives. Next. Together, we can ban politicians from interfering with initiatives that voters have already passed, attacking citizens' ability to use the initiative, and from manipulating language on ballots to mislead voters. Our coalition passes laws to make governments less corrupt and more accountable, and our coalition includes Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Greens, and Independents. Next. So you know when you vote and see those questions on the ballot, Proposition A or Constitutional Amendment 1, those are what we're here to talk about today. The legislature puts most of those on the ballot, and a few are put there by citizens. Politicians write the language for both, and they've been getting very tricky and trying to make it harder for citizens. Next. Okay. Citizens initiative. Ballot measure, initiative petition process, ballot initiative. Sounds complicated, but they all mean the same thing. It is the people's tool to propose new laws or amendments to Missouri's state constitution. Next. Missouri Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, says that all political power is derived from the people, that all government originates from the people, is founded on their will only, and is solely for the good of the whole. Article 3, Section 49, the people reserve power to propose and enact or reject laws and amendments to the Constitution by the initiative independent of the General Assembly. And the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees citizens the freedom of petition. Next. For more than 115 years, Missourians have cherished and used this sacred freedom. When politicians fail to do their job, the Citizens Initiative allows us to come together and solve important issues facing our communities. Missouri is one of 26 states that uses a statewide initiative. Next. Again, Respect Voters is cross-partisan. Politicians have been trying to take away your freedom of the Citizen Initiative and put all the power in their hands for decades. It usually happens after voters pass initiatives opposed by the ruling party. This happened under Democrat majorities in the 1980s and 90s, and now under Republican control. After the Hancock Amendment passed in 1980 to limit taxes, the Democrat-led General Assembly tried to restrict citizen initiatives. Republican Governor John Ashcroft vetoed this bill, defending ballot initiatives as a crucial voter freedom. He criticized politicians who attempted to take away voter power. As Republican former Speaker Carl Bearden said just 2 years ago, neither party is right to attack the people's power to have a check on government. Next. Here are some examples of recent citizen initiatives amending the Constitution. Missourians have amended our Constitution only 31 times using the Citizen Initiative. The legislature has amended our Constitution 134 times. That's more than 4 times as frequently as the people. Next. In a time of political polarization, Missourians still trust one another. That's why citizen initiatives rank highest in voter confidence for how to make laws, because it's the people governing ourselves. Next. So a citizen initiative is largely 3 big steps. Write an amendment, collect signatures, convince voters to vote yes on the ballot. In our case, that ballot will be November of 2026. Missouri citizens trust the process because of how hard it is. To get an amendment on the ballot, Missourians must gather about 300,000 signatures from across the state. That means thousands of volunteers talking to their neighbors in church basements, at town halls, and on street corners. Remember how many more times the legislature has amended our state constitution? That's because while we need to gather 300,000 signatures to put something on the ballot, they need only 51% of the legislature in Jeff City, only 100 votes. Supporters of an initiative, thank you. Supporters of an initiative must collect signatures in 2/3 of Missouri's congressional districts, which is 6 of 8 districts. Next. In Missouri, the number of signatures required for a citizen initiative is based on the number of votes cast for governor in the most recent election and on what type of initiative it is. Constitutional amendments have to collect signatures equal to 8% of the vote for governor in 6 of the congressional districts. Proposing a law requires only 5% of signatures, but it's easier to overturn. Next. Here are examples of citizen initiatives that were voted into law in Missouri: Puppy Mill Cruelty Prevention Act and Clean Missouri Anti-Corruption Amendment. Oops, back one. Unfortunately, Missouri politicians are national leaders in overturning the will of the people. The legislature currently has the ability to undo or change citizen initiatives. Only 100 politicians can vote to use the ballot to undermine us. The legislature writes their own ballot language for what they place on the ballot, so they are able to hide their real goal and trick us. This is a major conflict of interest. The ballot language is the words that go on the actual physical ballots that voters see at elections. The ballot language is the most important factor in determining whether voters vote yes or no. So the process for writing that ballot language matters a lot. Next. January 8th began the Missouri legislative session with 17 proposed bills to undermine the citizen initiative. It gets worse every year. Several Missouri groups, like Missouri Voter Protection Coalition, League of Women Voter, track harmful bills and lobby legislators through calls, meetings, testimonies, and rallies to block these legislations, sometimes just barely succeeding. It is time to go on offense. Next. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. We can lock in a fairer people's process. Together, we can ban politicians from interfering with initiatives that voters have already passed, attacking citizens' ability to use the initiative, and from manipulating language on ballots to mislead voters. There is precedent for all of this, and even more is possible with your help. We can let billionaires and politicians decide the future of Missouri, or we can recruit 2,500 volunteers to gather signatures for 2 hours per week for 12 weeks. Respect Voters began organizing in mid-December and already has over 600 people signed up. We are now holding town halls, at least 3 in each congressional district, through March to get input from as many Missourians as possible to grow the movement and shape the policy. Because this is your Constitution, and if we want voters to vote yes, we need to make sure all voters are represented by the policy and included in the process. Here are some examples of the things you might consider doing with the time you are available. If you can do one thing, like collecting signatures, that would be great. If you have a lot of time, we can find things for you to do that will allow you to focus your energy on accomplishing something positive that you can feel good about, which is keeping me from going insane right now. In the words of John F. Kennedy, every person can make a difference, and every person should try. We welcome help from other groups and donors, but we don't wait for anyone to give the people permission to secure the people's power. This organization consists only of relationships between people. The time is right to go on offense. With enough volunteers, voters can win any fight. Success will protect past votes, enable future reforms, and inspire other states. Thank you, and check out our beautiful new website. Oh, sorry, go ahead, go back. Check out our new website, which is listed at the bottom of the slide here, respectmovoters.org. And please go there and sign up to stay in the loop and be ready for action.
Okay, thank you very much, Toni.
Thank you.
I
Okay,
have a question,
questions,
Tony.
yes.
I'm so sorry. I should have raised my hand.
No,
Um,
that's fine.
Tony, I heard that you guys have districts all over, and are people working towards this all over, and that you have a St. Joseph group. Is that correct?
I know that we have people working in St. Joe. It's so cool because we're using this app called Mighty Network, run by Constituent Connections, which is Spencer Toder's um, company. And so we're talking with each other all day long, working on different things. And you forget that the people you're talking to are completely on the other side of the state. And that I'm talking to someone in St. Joe or I'm talking to someone in Cape Girardeau. And it's really awesome. And we're building the coalition statewide right now so that when it's time to start collecting signatures, we've got people working all through the state at the same time, where Amendment 3 started in a few big cities, and then those people started traveling out to the further areas. And this way, people can be working at home, in their own area with people they know, and it's very empowering, and people need to feel empowered now. In the November election, we lost everything except for a couple of citizens' initiatives. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for Prop A and Amendment 3, we'd have had nothing.
Right. Thank you.
Al Gerber asked the question, um, how do you keep ballot candy off the ballot, off the ballot
So,
language?
so we're conducting these town halls where we're giving this presentation and a little bit more information to prepare people to take a survey where they're going to answer questions about, and we just got a new survey up and running today for the Kansas City town hall that was tonight. Um, a bunch of questions that can help us decide which approach people like the best toward closing out those loopholes. Um, some things we could do to prevent ballot candy is um, changing the way the ballot language is being written. Um, right now, there's a bill SB 22 that's being discussed and could be passed without even a vote of the people, where the legislature wants to change it so that if a citizen's initiative goes to court saying you've given us biased ballot language, instead of the court being able to rewrite that language the way they did for Amendment 3, the court wouldn't be allowed to write the language. It would have to go back to the legislature. And if the legislature wasn't in session, it would go to the Secretary of State. So the people who have committed the offense will get the bill back to rewrite, and they'll just use up our time and they'll run out the clock, and it'll require another lawsuit, and apparently then there's no recourse. I guess that we just have biased ballot language on the ballot, or maybe we have to go to the Supreme Court, but it uses up time. So there are multiple different ways that we could close that loophole. Maybe have a citizens commission that would decide the ballot language. Maybe it goes to the Missouri Supreme Court or to the Missouri Bar Association. And people are going to have opportunities to weigh in on those options and see what people feel the most confidence in. And then in April or end of March, we're going to have a policy summit where we'll look at all the survey results and we'll look at the different options that we've come up with of ways to write the language, and we will submit a set of initiatives and see what kind of ballot language we get back on those and pick and see what polls the best, and then we'll choose one of those to move forward with to collect signatures.
And I hope you've got some good lawyers there on tap.
We have some, and we got to get more. I've got some plans. If
Maybe
you know any lawyers
maybe
who
you could get Larry Lessig involved.
tell Larry, send him to us.
It's possible. Okay. Other questions? I'm not seeing the full panoply of on my screen what I want to see, but are there any other questions for Toni?
So if that wasn't clear, the language has not been, we have things that we have submitted and we've gotten some feedback. We were surprised we got some not too bad ballot language for some of the options that we've submitted, but we will be submitting more options and things are not finalized now. It's really important that the people of Missouri weigh in on this and that they understand how the process works
Right.
and do it.
You're doing these town halls in part to get that input, right? So you can create a good ballot measure
Yes.
and look at your options. And then you said in what happens in March or April again?
Policy Summit,
Policy Summit. Okay.
where we fight over what goes on the ballot
And when do you think you might actually hit the streets to do the petitioning?
in the summer.
In the summer?
Yes. And
Okay.
those petitions will have to be turned in by early May of next year.
Okay. So I will put out information to everyone who's on this Zoom tonight, as well as others, of course. And I mean, to talk to practicalities of your list of things to do, like who do they get a hold of? What do they do? What's the next step?
Go to our website and sign up to volunteer or endorse our idea. So respectmovoters.org. And that will start a process where you can share what you're interested in doing. And there are so many things that need to be done. And some of them are simple, like data entry. Some things you can sit at home and do, other things making phone calls. Um, Maybe it's becoming a notary or helping push social media. Um, we have in activism in Missouri, there's a lot of important work done by my age and up, but we also are having an amazing turnout of young people who are really excited and they're really social media savvy and they're creating graphics and really pushing things for us on Facebook and Blue Sky and Instagram and all over the place, whatever, TikTok. And they're creating videos to explain things. And we have this beautiful new website that really you should check it out. It's got lots of great information on it. You can find out where a town hall is scheduled nearest to you. If you have some great idea for a town hall because you don't see one near you, then you can share that information and maybe you can help us get a town hall booked in that space. We've got we've held maybe 6 or 7 town halls so far, and we'll have more than 25. And so helping out at a town hall, or if there's some event in your area and you can table and you can explain, you can just share this information with people and give a handout, that's would be an amazing contribution. Um, there's all kinds of opportunities.
Okay, but it all starts with going to respectmovoters.org, sign
Yes.
up, and then I don't know, do you get to indicate what you're interested in? But somebody will get a hold of you anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Wanted to, Steve, if
Yeah.
it's okay, I wanted to address what is it, Cassie? Say how you pronounce your name?
Yes.
Cassie had put in the chat, and that's that she's feeling pretty hopeless right now. And I am traveling all over, and it is the most difficult thing I can do right now is talking to people who are devastated, who are feeling hopeless. And one thing I want you to know is they want you to feel that way. They are overwhelming you every single day. It's a shock and awe campaign. It's meant to hurt you and to be so painful that you disengage and you look away because you think, there's nothing I can do. What can I do? Right. So what I do personally is I do one thing every day. If you haven't downloaded the 5 Calls app, that's a great thing because they tell you what to do every single day. They give you 5 things you can do, but even if it's just one. And sometimes, Cassie, it feels completely hopeless because I'm calling Sam Graves or Josh Holly or Eric Schmidt, and it's like, what's the point, right? The point
Exactly.
the point is we are overwhelming them. Did you see what happened to Mark Alford when he tried to go to Belton? That man, his district encompasses Kansas City and Columbia. And where did he go? Belton. Because he thought that's the safest place I can go. And guess what? By God, it wasn't. There were 120 people waiting for that man. They were screaming at him, right? And that is people power. That is people that have had enough and cannot look away and aren't gonna look away. And people our age, I've got 4 grandkids. There's nothing I can do other than stay and fight, to draw a line in the sand and say no further. You're not going to take away their Medicaid. If you do, I'm going to show up. And I don't care if you're there or not. I'm going to call your representative in Hannibal, Missouri, Brian, who wouldn't talk to me, who lied to me, and I called him out on it, and he wouldn't respond to me. So what I did, I put his name and his phone number out. I sent it out to 500,000 people. And guess what? Brian had a real bad day today. And that's what I'm going to do every day. You're going to have a bad day because there are people like us standing up. So I know it feels hopeless and I know we can look around, but there's so many of us. There are so many of us fighting back in Missouri and across the country. So don't become hopeless. Just do your one thing and then go outside, pet a dog, get ready for your garden. You're going to need it. Whatever you can do. But there are so many of us. So don't give in to it. We were all in this together.
And
Um,
doing
Bill Mock,
something as local is a great opportunity to really affect change,
Yes.
to be
Bill
part of the
Mock asked
solution and
the
closing
chat.
the network.
Bill Mock asked in the chat, and I guess it was directed towards Jess, but anyone could respond. How do we get time on local radio and local media?
Money. They'll put anything on if you got a couple dollar bills stuck together. But also you can create like what happened yesterday with Mark Alford. You can create scenarios for the media when they want to show up. So you create something that's click worthy, something that can create a great headline. This goes back to social media marketing, right? Create something that people want to click on and read, and you can get free media there.
Some friends and I, on 5 days' notice, working with St. Louis County Dems and Indivisible We Persist, and this group was Conversations for Political Change. We threw together a rally that we had at near the Tesla place in Chesterfield and had 500 people show up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I was not aware of that. That's great.
I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay.
May I say something? Thank you for having me. I was actually on the corner of Market and Tucker on President's Day myself. I was actually the first person that showed up, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be standing out here by myself. But we had 200 to 300 people in front of City Hall in St. Louis as well. So, I mean, I'm making my 5 calls a day, and you know, like you said, Holly and Schmidt. It's like I know, and I know that I need to call them, and I know that 9 times out of 10 their voicemail is going to be full, and it's just frustrating. It's like it's like spinning wheels, and I know it's like shock and awe, and they want us to feel this way, but and I'm sorry for my appearance. I couldn't forget how to turn my camera off.
You look great, Cassie.
I ate cookies for dinner, for God's sake. So you know it's. But it's
Coping mechanisms.
I mean, I find myself spinning my wheels. Like, we've got an election coming up next Tuesday, and I'm researching the comptroller because I've already made my decision. But it's just, I mean, are we even going to be allowed to vote in 2026? I feel like planning for anything for 2026 is like, I don't know. It doesn't feel urgent enough, and the sense of urgency that I have is what's kind of pushing me forward. And so what else can be done?
Sounds
Join
like
us.
you're, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like you're doing it. Timothy Snyder wrote that great book called On Tyranny, and one of the tenets, he gives 20 directives, and one of them is to give to an organization that you know is making a difference. And so find those people that are driven towards the same things that you are, and give. Also, you can always, share posts, talk to people in your community. You have a circle of people that when you share things out, they will share things out too. So it's getting out to more people than you know. But you're doing the things, Cassie, and I get it. It doesn't feel like enough, but you're doing it.
Okay.
And remember, spend nothing on Friday.
There you go.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's already, I mean, I've already, like, I just ordered dog food because I realized I don't have enough to get me through Friday.
Fill the gas tank tomorrow.
Exactly. Well,
Susan? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, please, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say thank you.
Susan?
Cassie, it sounds like you live in the city.
I do, yes.
So do I. So one thing I would say to you, because I mean, I feel as overwhelmed as you do, is get involved with the League of Women Voters. We have a city unit. We meet by Zoom on the second Saturday of the month. It's real good, and I find it reinforcing to get together with like-minded people as often as possible. They keep me hopeful, and you can go to the League's website, or you can find their telephone number. Their office is out on Brentwood Boulevard. They'll sign you up, get you involved. We have in addition to having monthly meetings in different geographical units, we also have subject matter committees like education and environment and reproductive rights, and I can't remember all of them. We mostly work on voter registration, and I was registering high school students yesterday to vote.
Nice.
So we have projects like that. It keeps us doing something, and if you need to do something and do it with people who have the same concerns that you are, I recommend the League of Women Voters. They're a great group of people.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think there's any more in the chat that I can see. I wanted to display this chart. These are some of the activities that I know about. The economic blackout this Friday, then the other boycotts you see listed. And I don't know if you people heard about this shutdown on March 15th to stop making purchases. And then I've been talking to a woman on Facebook on Ann Wagner Watch Group, and she says she's committed to Sundays 1 to 3 protests at Ann Wagner's office. And I've said, okay, I'm going to join you. So, and I know that Tesson Ferry Democrats have expressed interest in that as well. So that's something else that might be going on. Anybody else know of any some similar things going on that are not listed? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I put on my video, but I don't think I'm showing up. I don't know if I am.
You are. You are.
I have heard on Friday also there is a demonstration at the Tesla dealership, I guess, on Lindbergh. I haven't looked up the address yet. It's from 4 to 6. I saw it online. And that leads me to a question of, is there a way that we could gather all these in one platform, or how could this be achieved? Because I'm just randomly finding things and I'm going to every one of what I can, because I think right now it's what we can do is to show up in these demonstrations. And perhaps that can give our representatives a little pause about what's going on. So I'm going to all of these, but it's just a random thing. I
Right,
just
right.
found
No,
out
I understand very
randomly.
well what you're saying. So what you saw was Friday from 46 at the Tesla dealership out on Lindbergh.
Yes, and I haven't looked it up, so I hope
And
there is a
I'll look it up and
dealership.
see if it's real and then send something out on it. This this has been a this is a long conversation about having, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Shouldn't there be a central place where people can go to get all this information? And uh, I don't know. Al, would you like to say anything on this?
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing
Oh, hi,
within
Al.
the.
This is Thalia.
Hi, how you doing? I saw you there. It's an ongoing thing within the Central Committee on how to get that out. So there are those of us who think that's a role of the Democratic Central Committee to do that, and we're pushing for that. So far, we haven't been successful. So if you
Why
want to.
not, Al?
I don't want to get into
Don't into it.
personalities, but if you
Okay.
want to reach out to the chairman,
Russ?
Jessica Labozetta or Nelson Minton, the vice chairman, and let them know
Oh.
that you think this has to be done right away.
Oh, you're talking about the county level now.
I'm talking about the county,
Yeah.
right? Because we're talking about stuff going on around the county, right?
Right.
So anyway,
Right.
that's something that you could do.
Yeah.
There are those of us trying.
You know, Thalia, there used to be, well, there still is a St. Louis activist site on Facebook, and but that kind of got degraded with a lot of stuff in there, and it's proved not to be real useful. There's just a lot of groups that put out a lot of information, like West County Dems. You can get on their mailing list, West County Dems,
I might be on it.
and then Conversations for Political Change.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine Chipperfield. That's she put out a lot of information after their weekly sessions.
Dahlia, if you want to put your email address in the chat, I can get you invited to the CFPC meetings. Susan
Okay.
Turk attends them regularly, and so does
Okay.
Trish, who's in the room here.
Oh, I love Trish. I follow her. Yeah.
And consider following on Facebook, consider following St. Louis City and St. Louis County Dems and Indivisible St. Louis
Yeah, I
and
do.
Indivisible We Persist, which is St. Charles. Don Crozier there has just put together a Google Calendar that has a lot of great stuff on it.
Oh,
He's
that's
starting to
wonderful.
compile stuff.
And Don Crozier is also a League of Women Voters member. He heads the St. Charles group. So, I mean, a lot of the more support groups you belong to, the better.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, this is good. I also have these Women's March, and I think maybe they are the ones who posted about the Lindbergh Tesla.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try and
Yes, I
find
will double check.
Okay. Anything? Any other questions right now? So I think we've covered most of what was on the agenda. There's so much to talk about. I'll just leave it open. If people wanted to talk about some things, fine. If not, we'll just close it up for the night. Whatever people would like to do.
I was just typing in the information for the Tesla boycott. I've got it right here. That is also this Friday from 4 to 6 at the Tesla dealership at 5711 South Lindbergh Boulevard. And I'm putting that in the chat now.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were doing. I wasn't sure about that address, but yeah, okay. Thank you.
And then the 5051 are the people that organized the President's Day March. They've now, a Missouri page has been specially set up and it's going pretty strong. And that's what it's called, is 50501 Missouri. And they're on Facebook.
Okay, great. Good information.
And I think I had one more thing. I saw something I'm not sure about.
What was that address for the Tesla demo or protest?
Yes. Hold on. Let me get that. Sorry.
Sorry, I missed it.
No worries. No worries. I'm typing it in now.
Conversations for Political Change is working on a protest on Friday, February 14th. Which is National Solidarity with Veterans Day. And
did you mean March 14th?
I don't know what I said, but yes, March 14th.
Is that one just in the flyer that I have here just says it's in Washington, D.C., but is that going to be?
It's going to be at the Veterans Office. Now I don't remember where they said it was. Hang on a second. At the John Cochran VA. It's going to be a pro-veteran event, pro-vet, anti-Elon, etc. So like veterans deserve their pensions and stuff like that.
Well,
and healthcare
as a retired veteran myself, yes. And yes, I agree. Is there a flyer for that one that's specifically for the John Cochran, or is it just?
We just decided this morning to do this, so you will start seeing it on Facebook, and John Bosch will be pushing it to the Dem groups. It's going to be March 14th at 11:30 a.m. till 1, I guess.
Okay.
At John Cochran.
And there's also on March 4th, and this one's being done, led by the 5051. It's March 4th against monarchy. It's going to be at Keener Plaza. We'll be marching to City Hall. There are actually two different ones on March 4th. One is starting at Keener Plaza and going down to City Hall. And there's another one from 2 to 4 that's going to be at City Hall. So basically, they're just trying to combine everything together and just get as many people in one spot as possible.
Yeah. Unfortunately, these national groups are pushing for locations like Keener Plaza or City Hall, but the city of St. Louis is a Democratic stronghold and an anchor in our state, and there's no one to be delivering your message to there. When we had that rally in Chesterfield, that's people who need to see us. So anytime you have an opportunity to participate someplace that's not Keener Plaza, where they roll up the sidewalks at 5 p.m., it's really so much better if we can be in St. Charles or Baldwin. Or
it certainly is, Toni. I've been saying that for a long, long time. Susan, you had something you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, the other thing is that March 4th is primary day, and so there's going to be an election in the city that day, and people are going to be very concerned about the primary election. I wanted to say that if you are a city resident, We have a school board election coming up in April, and there will be a candidate forum on Sunday, March 9th at the main public library downtown at 2 p.m., sponsored by the League of Women Voters. And so I encourage everyone who is a voter in the city and is wants to learn about the candidates for the school board to please show up at that.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. I thank you all for participating. Good meeting. Thank you very much, Toni,
Thank you.
for
Everybody.
coming and sharing. And I will get that out. And I will support. I mean, this is something I feel really strongly about, the ballot initiative. And yeah, the Missouri Senate voted yesterday to limit the courts to change the ballot language, right? So, I mean, these people do not quit in trying to sabotage people's rights.
And I want to welcome the new people at today's meeting. I hope we see you again. MOPEC generally meets monthly, although not usually on Saturdays. We tried something different tonight to see if we could get some new faces, and it seems to have worked. So, however you found out about this meeting, I hope that, you know, we have a website, and I hope we see you again at future meetings.
Yeah. How did some of the new people find out about this meeting tonight? If they're still here.
I think I was on Facebook, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just jumping on every meeting I find, every
Good for you.
Facebook I find. I have no idea. Everything's a blur right now. I did just join the Facebook page, the Respect Mo Voters. That's y'all, right?
Yes,
we are.
you.
That's Toni. Yes, Toni.
Okay.
Respect Mo Voters.
If you give us your email address in the chat, we can add you to our mailing list, and then you'll get meeting notices.
She's got it there.
Yep, I just added it right there.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
that's
Thank
it
you
too,
all
then.
so much. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you very
All
much.
right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
all. Say good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you for coming. Thank
Bye-bye.
you for sponsoring this, Steve.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.